The small bell above my quaint little bookstore gave a soft chime as another customer exited, once again, without buying a thing. My modest shop, known as the Reader's Corner, had certainly seen more prosperous days, but it belonged to me. Every creaky floorboard, every dust-covered shelf, every long-forgotten book, it was mine. I had built it from scratch, walking away from the powerful shadow of my family's real estate empire to do so.
Seriously, Olivia?
I glanced up from the stack of monthly invoices at the sound of my brother Thomas's voice. There he was, immaculately dressed in a custom-tailored suit, radiating the polished arrogance of a Parker Real Estate Group executive. Still pretending to be a shopkeeper with your little pile of books? Standing beside him, our sister Diana gave a disdainful little smirk, tapping her stiletto heels, designer, no doubt, against the floor with impatience.
What do you want, Thomas? I asked, unable and unwilling to hide my fatigue.
Dad's stepping down, Diana announced, her eyes scanning my store like she was inspecting a dumpster. He'll make it official at next week's shareholders' meeting.
And the company? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Going to Thomas, obviously, she said, without a trace of surprise. Of course it was. Thomas, the golden boy.
The rule follower with an MBA, a wealthy wife, and a perfectly curated corporate life. Unlike me, who'd taken the same degree and poured it into a cozy bookstore rather than the family business. Congratulations, I said dryly.
Is that all? Actually, Thomas's smile was sharp and icy. This is about your lease. My stomach dropped.
The Parker Group just acquired this building, he continued. We're converting the whole block into upscale condos.
I froze. What?
You have 30 days, Diana added, dropping an envelope onto the counter like a final blow. We'll even take care of removing all this. She gestured vaguely at my shelves, like the books were trash. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. The eviction notice was official, complete with my father's signature. This store means everything to me, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. This store is a joke, Thomas snapped. Just like your choice to waste your education on this fantasy. What do you even earn here? $5,000 a month.
If only he knew.
Come on, Diana urged, glancing at her phone. We're going to be late for that Morgan Stanley meeting. As they turned to leave, Thomas hesitated at the door.
It's not too late, Liv.
If you crawl back, beg a little, maybe Dad will toss you a junior position. The bell rang again as they walked out, leaving me alone amid shelves of paper and silence. Only after their sleek luxury car had disappeared from view did I pick up my phone.
Jack, I said calmly to my attorney. It's time. Activate Plan B.
Are you sure? He asked. They just tried to evict me from my own property, I replied, voice firm.
Yes, I'm sure.
What my family didn't realize, what no one did, was that the Reader's Corner was only a front. Beneath the humble image of a struggling bookstore lay the nerve center of Phoenix Digital Libraries, the country's fastest-rising e-book platform. While they thought I was lost in paperbacks, I'd quietly built a digital powerhouse now valued in the billions. Our platform hosted titles from every major publisher. Universities across the country relied on our services.
And this tiny bookstore?
It was my refuge, a tribute to where it all began.
The building they thought they bought?
I'd purchased it under a shell corporation 2 years ago. Along with half the commercial real estate in Manhattan. The Parker Group had just tried to evict me from a property I already owned. I looked around my beloved shop, running my fingers along the spines of well-worn volumes, each one a chapter in my secret triumph. They always believed this bookstore was my soft spot. In reality, it was the nerve center of my quiet uprising. I flipped open my laptop and checked my offshore accounts, every last transaction in place. After 5 years of slowly acquiring voting power in Parker Group through a network of shell companies, I now held the reins. The upcoming shareholders' meeting would be anything but routine.
Dad wanted to step down. The timing couldn't have been better. The bell jingled again.
This time it was Sarah, my assistant, stepping in with 2 coffees and a thick folder tucked under her arm.
We're set, she said, handing me my cup.
Morgan Stanley confirmed the press schedule. The moment the news hits about Phoenix Digital's real valuation and ownership, it's all green lights. I nodded, a slow smile curving my lips. The Parker Group was about to be blindsided. Through the dust-smeared glass of my shop window, I looked out at the Manhattan skyline. In the distance stood the gleaming Parker Group Tower, a structure they thought they still owned. Ironically, they were looking down on me from a building that already belonged to me. They'd mocked this shop, scoffed at my dream, laughed at the so-called fantasy I was clinging to. And while they did that, I was dismantling their empire one piece at a time. Letting people underestimate you can be a weapon. The kind that doesn't strike until it's too late to defend against. They thought they were taking everything from me, when in fact, I now controlled all they had tried to steal. On the morning of the shareholders' meeting, I pulled on a sleek designer suit that had sat untouched in my closet for years. The look of a struggling bookseller had served its purpose. But today, the mask came off. As I walked into the Parker Group's grand headquarters, nostalgia surged. The polished marble lobby where Dad once showed us off like trophies. The elevator where Thomas smugly told me I'd never make it in real business. The top floor boardroom where I announced I was leaving to open a bookstore, and they all laughed. "Miss, you'll need to sign in," a security guard called, glancing up from his tablet. I smiled calmly. "Check your list. Olivia Parker, majority shareholder." His eyes widened as the updated record appeared on his screen. The whispers would start now. As the elevator climbed, my phone buzzed. A message from Sarah lit up the screen. CNBC breaking news ready. Wall Street Journal article goes live in 20 minutes. Morgan Stanley presentation cued. The doors opened into chaos. Executives rushed down corridors, clutching reports and barking into phones. Faces pale. Eyes darting. Someone had clearly checked the shareholder roster. "Olivia." Diana's voice wavered behind me. "What are you doing here? This is a closed meeting." "Closed to the public," I said evenly, walking past her. "I'm not the public, I'm a shareholder." "That's absurd," she scoffed, trailing me, heels clacking. "You couldn't possibly afford." She was cut off by the large TV on the wall, which switched to breaking news. Phoenix Digital Libraries, the digital publishing platform valued at $8.2 billion, officially confirms its founder and CEO, Enzio, alias Olivia Parker. Diana's expression froze. Her breath hitched. Inside the boardroom, silence fell as I entered. My father sat at the head of the table, looking older than I remembered. Thomas stood mid-sentence, completely stunned. "Please," I said smoothly. "Don't let me interrupt." Dad's brow furrowed. "What is this? Why are you here?" "The better question," I said, calmly taking a seat, "is why you're trying to sell off property that doesn't belong to you." "Our property?" Thomas let out a dry laugh, trying to regain composure. "You mean that rundown corner we just bought?" "That's interesting," came a voice from the doorway. It was Jack, my lawyer, carrying a binder full of documents. "Because Ms. Parker already owns that block, through Phoenix Holdings. In fact, she owns this building too." Gasps erupted. Board members scrambled to check their tablets. Phones vibrated. The revelation about Phoenix Digital's ownership was detonating across financial media. In minutes, the markets would open, and Parker Group stock would nosedive while Phoenix soared. "This can't be," Dad whispered. "That little store barely stays open." I opened my laptop and connected it to the presentation screen. "That little store was never meant to be profitable," I explained. "It was my cover while I built something larger. Something you all assumed I wasn't capable of." The screen lit up with Phoenix Digital's logo and stats. Market penetration, user growth, licensing deals. Every major publisher. Every university. All on our platform. My company. My vision. I stood, meeting their stunned faces with steady confidence. "While you were busy mocking my bookstore, I was digitizing the future of publishing and acquiring your company from the inside." Thomas sank into a chair, pale. "How long?" "5 years," I said. "Every time you walked in to insult me, I quietly bought more of your company. That merger you toasted last spring? I greenlit it. The renovation you bragged about? I paused. I approved that too. I financed it." My words landed heavy in the room. My father's fingers trembled as he reached for his glass, suddenly unsure of his grip on anything. "But why?" he asked, his voice thin. "Because you did teach me," I said quietly, "just not the lesson you meant to. You showed me that being underestimated is often the sharpest weapon. The boardroom door swung open just then. A team from Morgan Stanley stepped inside, crisp suits and sharp eyes, ready to present the last piece of the puzzle. I rose, adjusting my jacket with calm precision. Now, let's talk about why I'm really here. My gaze swept the room. Dad's stepping down. That's perfect timing. But Thomas, he won't be the one taking the reins. Then who? Diana snapped, confusion written all over her face. I offered her a patient smile, picturing the cozy bookstore downtown, the place they all thought was my dead end. Sometimes, I said, a quiet corner hides the loudest truth. And sometimes the daughter you dismissed is the one building the foundation beneath your entire empire. The Morgan Stanley team launched into their presentation. Slide after slide laid bare the facts. Ownership transfers, majority control, Phoenix Digital's valuation, and exactly how deeply entwined it now was with the Parker Group. I didn't have to raise my voice. I didn't have to make a scene. This was precision, not noise. By evening, the media had caught the scent. Phoenix Digital acquires Parker Group. Bookstore owner unmasked as tech visionary. Olivia Parker, the billionaire behind the shelf. I sat in what used to be my father's chair, no, my chair now, staring out at the city skyline. The office felt different. Bigger. But familiar. The door creaked open. Jack stepped in, a manila folder in hand. It's all finalized, he said. You now control both entities. Thomas and Diana resigned. Your father, he's waiting outside. I nodded slowly. Send him in. Dad entered, and for the first time, he looked small. The aura of power, the air of superiority, it was all gone. In its place was a man coming to terms with just how wrong he'd been. That store, he murmured, all those years we laughed at you, was exactly what I needed, I finished. The perfect front. Who would suspect a failing bookseller of quietly building a tech juggernaut? He sank into a chair across from me. You bought it all, didn't you? Every last piece, I replied. Not just the Parker Group. The buildings, the licensing contracts, even your precious downtown project. I signed off on those blueprints 6 months ago. He looked up at me, lost. Why keep the bookstore now? Everyone knows. I smiled faintly, my thoughts drifting back to the shelves lined with forgotten titles. Because it grounds me. It reminds me that appearances can lie. That what seems insignificant may actually house something enormous. My phone buzzed, a message from Thomas. We should have paid attention. We should have seen it coming. I typed back. Yes, you should have. Dad stood slowly, turning to leave. Then paused. What happens next? I looked around the room, already envisioning the transformation ahead. Now, I run both empires. Phoenix Digital keeps reshaping the publishing world. Parker Group finally enters the modern age. And the bookstore? He asked. It stays, I said firmly. Exactly as it is. A reminder that small dreams can build massive realities. After he left, I headed downstairs. The doorman looked up as I approached, a familiar grin lighting his face. Evening, Miss Parker. Evening, James. If your brother stops by, he said with a twinkle in his eye, want me to remind him again who owns this place? Please do, I said with a smile. I slid into the back seat of my car. Take me home, I said to the driver. Home meant the Reader's Corner. The lights were still on, glowing through the windows like a lighthouse. Inside, Sarah was busy rearranging the shelves, keeping up the illusion. Still want it to look like a working bookstore? She asked as I stepped inside. No, I said gently, brushing my fingers across the spines of old favorites. I want to keep the reminder. The bell above the door chimed, a soft sound I'd once associated with solitude and quiet dreams. Now, it rang with something else entirely. Victory. I reached for a copy of The Art of War, well-worn and wise. This tiny storefront had been a secret stronghold, and I intended to keep it that way. Because sometimes, the greatest power is hiding in plain sight. The next morning, a new nameplate was affixed just below the faded sign that read The Reader's Corner. Olivia Parker. Owner, Parker Group and Phoenix Digital. Because real revenge isn't just about winning. It's about doing it on your own terms, and leaving the world stunned in your wake.